Welcome back to our little witchy corner of the internet. Hope everybody's doing okay with the weather out there. So let's jump into it. Sovereignty, battle, and prophecy. Lessons for life, for your practice, and aspects of the Morrigan. The Morrigan has three distinct aspects that the majority of people can agree upon, and that's sovereignty, battle, and prophecy. In my own practice, these aspects are connected and woven together as one, aspects that build upon each other and work together. They are concepts that can be found in our day-to-day lives, our magical practice and growth, and for me, deeper understanding of these aspects in the Morrigan. So today I wanted to share my thoughts on each of them. Remember, each person is going to have their own interpretations, ideas, and practices. These are just mine. Perhaps they will give you something to reflect on or inspire ideas within you in your practice. So let's start with sovereignty. In our modern age, the word sovereignty has gotten a little muddied and is used in ways such as just specific personal freedoms. Sovereignty isn't about freedom. It's about duty, responsibility, and above all, service. It's not the right to rule over something. It's the responsibility to rule over it correctly. Even when talking about sovereignty of self, there's a responsibility to govern yourself responsibly, or you risk losing parts of yourself. In my practice, I also see sovereignty as the learning and life stage of the life, death, rebirth cycle. In order to be in service of something, to be responsible for it, to protect it, we have to understand it. Whether within ourselves or outside of us, doesn't matter. This stage is where we are gathering knowledge, testing our ideas, setting our boundaries, building our perspectives of it through experience, understanding the relationships and connections and the duality in all aspects of life. We are coming to our own perspectives through our experiences and creating our own boundaries, our own philosophies, and governing rules as we do so. Respect is a core aspect of understanding sovereignty. Respect gives us the directives or directions for the world outside of ourselves and within ourselves. The realization that duality between ourselves and other living beings, the perspective that at the core, we are a pattern of energy. Other living beings are a pattern of energy. That all patterns of energy hold the same potential of processes and deserve the same considerations as we would give ourselves. In essence, intrinsic dignity. What makes us different is our experiences and knowledge, because that's what shapes our perspectives and our actions. Respect starts with an inward journey, because if we don't know respect for ourselves, how can we give it to other people? If we talk negatively about ourselves, either in our mind or spoken words, we are disrespecting ourselves. You can make mistakes. After all, that's how we learn and grow, through mistakes. But by saying things such as, "I was so stupid," you have taken that learning experience and created a negative mindset for yourself, convincing yourself that you do not have the potential to achieve success. As young women and men, we all have these outside sources telling us we have to look and act a certain way in order to be loved or to find love. When we start to internalize those thoughts and take ownership of them, by doing this, we are giving up our own sovereignty of self-view and giving it over to another's. We are disrespecting and killing our potential to achieve that love. In the witching community, you see a lot of people talk about specific types of magic, such as divination or protection magic, for example. Inevitably, someone will call their alignment with that specific type of magic a gift. And someone else in the conversation will assume that they do not have the potential to achieve that same result. This again is disrespecting yourself, in my opinion, and not believing we all have the same potential when it comes to magic. The problem is, more with how we view the word gift. But in essence, let's say that the first person was just expressing that this type of magic came more naturally to them. And this is because their energy is more in tune to that particular frequency. The second person may not have that same frequency in their energy, so they're going to have to study and work much harder to achieve the same goal. Through this work, they are aligning themselves with that energy and its particular vibration so they can work that magic. Now let's look at the flip side of what this could be. Let's say the first person was using the statement of gift in a way to make themselves feel above others, or to feel special, or that only certain people can achieve this kind of magic. This is an example of outward disrespect. It comes from ego and sometimes even fear. It's where you see a lot of gatekeeping and abuse of power in our community because those people are not seeing the same potential of others within themselves. They have taken sovereignty to a place of control and personal gain instead of protecting and guiding those which they believe or care for. We have to know that we have the same potential as anyone else. Some things may naturally come easier to one person because they are more aligned to that energy or that vibration, while another may have to consciously work harder to get that alignment. The important thing to remember, though, is both have the same potential to achieve that alignment. Through respect, we achieve the goals of sovereignty and earn the right to have sovereignty. So let's look at battle. Battle is a necessary part of life and growth. It's unavoidable. Humanity has evolved because people challenge set ideas or through imagination and experimentation found new truths. Battle occurs when old ideas are challenged by new ideas. For some, the old ideas are comforting, they are familiar, they have proven history, and the new idea presents a threat or a perceived truth. If a new idea completely disregards a previously accepted truth, some will fight and cling even harder because not only has it evolved, they have to face the fact that a belief they once held was wrong. For some reason, being wrong or making mistakes has become really demonized. But in truth, it is how we learn and grow. If we are not making mistakes, then we are not trying, and we are not going to be moving forward. At the core of every battle exists integrity. Integrity gives us the directives to become a state of wholeness. Wholeness between our energy and its frequency. Wholeness between ourselves and the world we live in. To be honest with ourselves and live that honesty with our actions. In order to be fair in our dealings with others, we must first be fair with ourselves. If we expect to be treated with decency, we must also act with decency. In order to show courage, we must feel courage first. In order to be consistent in our actions, we must first be consistent in our thoughts. Within sovereignty and respect, we built our personal rules or guidelines of what we choose to be guardians of and how we protect it. Guardianship aligns the thoughts of our inner self with the actions of our outer self. So what we think is also what we do. To know we cannot own or control another being. We can only guide or influence. To know we cannot change someone else. We can only change ourselves. By letting the lessons of sovereignty and respect guide us, it eliminates the ego aspects. It makes us into a protector that is strong enough to fight when needed, but also wise enough to know when we should. In my practice, battle is like the death aspect. It is the point where we are in reflection of what we built in sovereignty. We are challenging what we think we know, what we think we believe. the boundaries we set, and why we protect certain things. In the magical community is often done through shadow work, turning our eye inward and taking an honest look at the whys. This can apply to something within yourself, or it can apply to something in your outside world, in your environment. There are times where our perspective has changed because we have new information or a new experience that questions our preconceived one. Here we are tearing down our perspective to bone in order to build it back up. You see, death is the moment before transformation. Destruction has to occur in order to give way for new growth. Thus, battle must happen in order for balance to be restored. If battle is caused by imbalance, then the result of the ending of the battle should be balance again. When we become unbalanced, it is due to either an inner conflict or an outer one. Inner conflict is generally about learning new information that challenges a preconceived truth, and the inner battle must happen. We must find balance. This process is good to do often, to ensure we are always moving forward, growing, and keeping an open mind perspective. Sometimes the old will stay true. Sometimes it will just need to be tweaked a little bit. And sometimes it will be completely replaced. None of these are bad things, as long as we are doing the work with integrity. Outer conflicts. These get a little more difficult. More often than not, it comes from a place of ego, where a sovereign has allowed their ego to spill in and selfish motives surface. When the person becomes possessive of what they guard, where the fear of loss, perceived or real, becomes the driving force of their guardianship, where they feel they are entitled or more special than another by putting themselves on a pedestal. Guardianship drives itself to battle when we start becoming possessive of what we guard, or trying to control what we do not possess. I've seen this more than I would like in our pagan community. Someone dedicates themselves to a certain practice. They have their own connections, experiences, interpretations, and beliefs. They are all really good things until their egos take guardianship of their personal connection to a place of authority and ownership over others. This thinking has led them away from the concept of respect, the thought that everyone has the potential, and into ego, thinking that if others do not follow their ways or share their opinions and experiences, then they are unworthy or untruthful. No matter how we got there, whether by a real threat or a perceived threat, the next stage is battle. Battle emerges from an imbalance. Two opposing forces, one fighting for balance and one fighting for dominance. Personal integrity plays a large role in the way we fight our battles and how we see ourselves when the dust has cleared. If we fight with integrity, in balance with our own personal morals and rules for ourselves, in service to our sovereignty and with respect, then no matter how the battle ends, we can walk away whole. If we fight from a place of ego, dominance, or fear, then all of those imbalances will still be there when the battle is done and perpetuate an ongoing war. Peace is probably one of the most often overlooked aspects of battle. Yet after every battle, there is a perceived victor and loser, and both must coexist in the world. The problems and emotions do not always disappear with the conclusion of a battle, but both sides must find a way to live together in harmony once again, to create peace in order to stop the war. Peace is forged through forgiveness and compromise. Forgiveness is found in compassion and respect. Through compassion, and I mean understanding, not feeling what the other person's feeling, we can see how the other side may have come to the conclusions or actions they did. Knowing how the opposing side got to this point allows us to forgive. We all make mistakes. We all have faults. We all have perspectives that are shaped by our personal past experiences. By seeing the whole picture, right or wrong, it helps explain why they took the road they did and how you can make peace. Through respect, we can build a space where we accept that each has the same potential. Each has the right to follow their own path, and each person's experience is valid to them. Compromise can be found in integrity. It is the governance of ourselves and our actions. Being consistent in those and treating others in the same manner as we expect to receive. Integrity means we act in the same way we think. Our inner selves are mirrored in our outward actions. Through integrity, we build boundaries and set rules between the opposing sides. Not all battles are bad. Some must be had, especially internally, to get to the point of peace, of balance within ourselves. It is how we come to that battle and how we fight it that will determine the outcome for ourselves. Whether we fight an endless war or broker peace and restore balance. The battle aspect for the Morrigan is probably the most widely known and thought of. I have seen many that look at it in the sense of aggression and love of carnage. In a way, I suppose that is true, especially in the inward battles, because we are in a moment of deep growth, tearing down the old and rebuilding ourselves, preparing for the next transformation. This seems to be true in the aspect that most will say she demands shadow work, growth, and certain inner work from us. I hear that over and over. I do not, however, see her as this bloodlust in the sense of fighting just to be fighting, or going against her aspects of sovereignty and respect and integrity. I do not see her as this evil, bloodthirsty deity who's just out for blood. I feel there is a purpose for everything she does, and she is playing the long game. So now we get to prophecy. Prophecy means prediction. The scientific view of prediction involves understanding and seeing patterns. Using data to make assumptions of predictable or most likely behavior. Using history and knowledge of the subject to create the data. The data gives us knowledge, and the pattern gives us blueprints. Together, they allow us to make plausible predictions or theories. The more data we have, and the more reoccurrent the pattern we find, the better the prediction. Prophecy, as we see it in the magical or spiritual sense, is a combination of the science and connection to an energy beyond ourselves. Whether you see that energy as a universal consciousness, a deity, divine energy, or any number of constructs. Those who are involved in magical prophecy are connected to it or tapping into it. We understand that nature and energy have patterns. Those patterns can interact and act upon each other. Those patterns generally follow certain rules that repeat. Thus, we can make certain predictions or assumptions as to what the outcome would be if this pattern met or merged with that one. We also believe we can tap into the greater energy to give us knowledge and clues. When we start consciously looking for those patterns in our life or environment, we start to see clues to those patterns. If we are observant and reflective, we can piece together the data being given to us and create a theory as to where it is headed. This is most effective when we are in balance with ourselves and at peace within ourselves. In the same sense, if we are not in balance, if we are not whole, Our mind and ego can twist what we experience and give us wrong information. Prophecy also means transformation. It is the transformation that happens after battle. It is the peace and rebirth of ourselves from going through the previous processes. As we become sovereign through respect and meet battle with integrity, we come to the power of prophecy through authenticity. Authenticity is where we are completely balanced in thought and action, where we are living our outward life the same as we think in our inward one, staying true to your own self, values, and spirit regardless of outside pressure, creating and living in the best version of ourselves. Yes, there are some who naturally resonate or vibrate at the right frequency to tap into the larger energy so they can still be imbalanced and access certain information. The imbalance hinders them though, and only gives them pieces. The more imbalanced or the more balanced they become, the greater their power in this area becomes. If you have no real skill in this area yet, by becoming more balanced inward and outward, the connection and skill will start to manifest more and more. The deeper the connection, the more you will be able to see. The easier you can make the connections, and the more accurate your predictions or sight will become. This also applies to connecting with deity. I've noticed a trend with people I have talked to when it comes to them first connecting with a deity, including my own experiences, is that no matter which one it is, the draw or requirement of doing shadow work seems to be fairly consistent. I think this is because during shadow work, we are required to face all of those imbalances within us, to analyze them, to work through them, and bring ourselves to a more balanced state. As we go through this work and make progress, we notice that connection to deity gets stronger. The stronger the connection, the better and more information we are able to receive and understand. These are core aspects in my practice and the work I have been doing with the Morrigan. As I said, some may disagree with me, and that's fine. For some, this will resonate with you and hopefully help you further your spiritual and magical goals. My hope is that if nothing else, this has given you something to reflect on, both within your life and within your craft. And keep in mind this cycle of sovereignty and battle and prophecy, you don't go through it just once. You're going to go through it, and you're going to go through it, and you're going to go through it. Because we're always growing. We're always taking in new information. We're always learning something new. And times change. We evolve as a society. And we have to bring in those new aspects as well. When they come out with the new science that directly links to energy, maybe there's something in that that's going to give us a better clue. So don't think of shadow work and don't think of this cycle as just something that you go through once. It's lifelong. It's like every other learning. It's lifelong. So until next time, keep walking your own path.